What's up, everybody? It's been a while since I did a Mudflood video, so let's look at some photos. Um, I've seen a lot of people that get things wrong about what's real mud flood and what's not. Don't worry, I'm not picking on anybody. This is just what people have pegged as mud flood on Pinterest. And I'll tell you why I think what I think. And, some of this is going to be objective facts. It is what it is for a reason. But, some of these I'm just going to be guessing too. But I'll show you some things that just automatically rule out all other possibilities. So, this is a really famous one. What you guys think on this? Here, let's do it in black and white. It makes it more antiquitechy. So, this was the Paris train station being dug out. How many think this is buried wall of old buildings down here? Why would you build like that with all these uneven columns and those tiny little windows in there? And no, none of them sank, I promise you. That's actually all concrete, as I'll show in a minute. But if you did have a column that was subsiding that much, you'd be seeing all kinds of signs of damage. If the left side of that line were sliding down, it would be opening a big gap, and we're not seeing that. But I promise you, that's all concrete and has nothing to do with a mud flood, and here's why. Here come the objective facts, like all the indoctrinated people like me believe in. Dirt or sand, at difference between the materials, have a point where if you exceed that incline, then it'll all just start rolling downhill. This is known as the angle of repose. If you were to pour more sand on top of that, it would all just roll downhill until enough built up to hold more up. That's why we have retaining walls. If you were to place a building or a big huge cathedral up here on top of this dirt embankment, what do you think would happen? Yep, that. Different materials will have a different angle of repose, and some people are willing to take more risk than others. These guys are daredevils. I can just about guarantee there's a lot of clay in that soil, which is really sticky stuff, has almost a vertical angle of repose, but they're taking a huge risk here without doing any underpinning or any retaining wall. But if you look closely, what they did was dig a channel down right here to get down to something solid and then post it up. Back here, they did the same thing. But what's going on in this case is you see the railroad tracks here. They were digging out for the railroad, and you see all of these long, straight claw marks. That doesn't happen with people digging with a shovel. And steam shovels are just as effective as modern backhoes. Steam can move big, heavy trains and ships through the ocean or remove dirt. No contractor today would take anything close to this kind of risk with building. They'd install shoring, just like this before digging. You see all of those round columns? What they did was drill a hole down, pour concrete, drill a hole down, pour concrete. That way you're not risking a cave-in. Just like here, you've got a big heavy building there, and their foundations go deep. And I'm sure in this one they're going to put in a big, huge basement, because in a place like this, real estate's expensive. You want to get as much square footage as you can on your lot. We're going to zoom in right here. You start on one corner and dig your way over. So starting right here, you dig about an 8-foot section where you've got enough room to get the auger in there, drill a hole down, pour concrete, and then you put a steel beam on top, post up. Come over another 8 feet. You do the same thing. Drill down, pour concrete, post up. You do that all the way across, and then nothing caves in on you. And I can show you a million examples of this, because anytime you're building a building that is in this situation, you have to do this. Or you're taking a huge risk with a really expensive building. In this case right here, it's really obvious. I mean, nobody would put column next to column next to column. And so that's what's going on here. And this isn't guessing. I mean, this is a fact. I've been building for almost 30 years and done plenty of this. Not on this scale, but anytime you're doing foundation work and have to repair it, this is what you have to do. And all of those quote-unquote windows are where they had temporary bracing before they were able to pour the concrete. And this applies to every building in the world. It's physics. It doesn't matter if it's the White House. And it doesn't even make any sense that you would originally build all these columns and then the steps 40 feet up in the air and then it got filled in with mud. That just doesn't even make sense. And over here, you can see where their temporary bracing is still stubbed out. You can see the shadow angling down the wall. Well, if those had been removed, then that would be the quote-unquote windows from a minute ago. So at the foundation line of the outside of the window, you see that they've got concrete solid all the way across there, and then all of those steel I-beams posting up. That's just holding up ground level, just for people to be able to walk for them. That's just a platform. So every building in the world that you see pictures like this, that has nothing to do with any type of catastrophe. That's just a building process. But I guarantee you there's a lot of people mad at me right now, telling me how I'm wrong. I'm indoctrinated, got cognitive dissonance. It's just parroting the same old crap all the time. They tell me that I can't accept the truth when the fact of the matter is someone convinced them that there was something to this, and now that's their new religion. It's a belief system. You can't tell them anything otherwise. And if any of those photo PhD creators out there want to debate this fact, bring it. Some really can't accept that a YouTuber got something wrong, or in some cases flat out lied to them, and will stand up for their new religious beliefs no matter what you show them. You can take them out to the job site. It's perfectly fine to get things wrong. It's perfectly fine to have been fooled. But like the saying goes, it's easier to fool somebody than to convince somebody they've been fooled. Moving on, situations like this are a little more complicated. Definitely been buried to, the obvious line there. And you see the door up at this level. And that's, the dirt connects to that. But then you look at the street level back here and over here. You see the whole street level is probably at the level of the bottom of that building. They've got huge tall windows on the back here that are definitely not just basement windows. So I'd say it definitely got buried after it was built. But I don't know anything for sure about what happened here. So we'll give this one a probably. What about this one? Let's see, was that Notre Dame or Cologne Cathedral back there? And you can see the river in the background there. So I would say, yeah, definitely that this got covered in with sediment. But it is a bridge on a river, so I don't think it's really that strange to see a flood next to a river. And it looks like it was almost completely buried by the grass and the level back here. But here's what you can do. It's always good to know where you're looking. And I'm pretty sure that's Cologne Cathedral right on the Rhine River. And I actually just talked about this a couple videos ago. Back in the 1300s, great floods occurred in the vicinity of the Rhine, which could not be attributed to rain alone, for everywhere, even on tops of mountains, springs were seen to burst forth and dry tracks underwater. So, yeah, this is definitely a area that's had some action. So this could date all the way back to that. What about this one? I'd say definitely yeah. This is in Turkey, a little ways off of the ocean, and I couldn't tell that it was by a river, so possible tsunami. Nah, me. What about this one? This one's pretty famous, and it goes along with several other that I've seen quite a few times. I've heard quite a few times that they couldn't dig a foundation and haul off all that dirt with horse and buggy, but they can dig out an old building with horse and buggy, right? Which is really funny to the whole overall mudflood, because that claim is that they dug out all the cities of 20, 30 feet of mud. Sorry, but not every city that's ever existed has been Mudflood. All of this is Kansas City, and there's the Missouri River in the background. And before we put in a huge series of dams up the Missouri River going into the Rockies, this flooded every year bad. So if you wanted your house buried, then yeah, build there. But you can see that there's all of these cliff faces about 30 feet high or so, and that's loose flood deposits. You see how they've flattened everything out over here down to, just a little ways over the river level, it looks like. And they're working out away from the river, leveling at that level. If those deposits were really loose dirt, then you wouldn't get a good foundation. So you dig down. And then looking this way, you see the rest of the city all built up at the plains level. The river is cut in and dug out down lower. But this is kind of a natural ravine right here. I mean, it's got all the erosion marks over the years. And then here's another part of the city. And I mean, you can see it's got all these natural ravines basically all along the river. You have all this. And most people built up high and dry. So going back to this famous mudflood picture, you're looking down one of those natural ravines and you see the house down on the street level. And I'll show you that flat road in a second. And then up on the bluffs, high and dry, you got somebody else's house. So here you are down on the street looking away from the river, and they've flattened out one of those natural ravines and made a road going up to all the houses on the upper level. Now, this isn't the same house down in the lower left corner, but it's the same exact scenario. I mean, the same scenario plays out time and time again just due to how the landscape is. Oh, here we go. I was about to say that those cliff faces are thick loess layers a minute ago, but they've changed the definition of that word evidently to mean wind deposits. But here they are, got all the excavation equipment out there, cutting in a road. And here they are, horse and buggy, hauling everything out of there. They probably got a train of 20 teams going back and forth doing this. Just like this other pretty famous pic. I know I've seen it quite a few times. So as far as I'm concerned, that's that. But this isn't the objective facts that I was talking about. But I think anybody that would argue this with me is off base. And once again, right here, you've got the house that's up on the bluff. A bit of the natural ravine left there. You see they cut in a street, and this building over here is already built at that level. Okay, what about this one? Now, that's the Great Molasses Incident. This is Sardinia, I think, and I don't think there's any question about this one. Though archaeologists may argue that this is just cultural layers deposited slowly over thousands of years. And what I say to that is, you see all those big rocks in there? When was the last time you went to mow your yard and you had to move all the cultural layer stones out of the way? No, that took something with a lot more energy than just the wind blowing. This right here, on the subject of liquefaction, which does happen, but I would give this a 99% chance of not being a liquefaction. Just like with houses that settle slowly, they don't do so evenly, and the columns would not be straight vertical anymore like they are. And if you want to question that, take a soda can and set it perfectly level in a bowl of oatmeal and let me know if it sinks down exactly level. No, any building that's been through if it was a liquefaction event and it sank, it would be terribly out of level. How about this one? Hide and seek champion of the world, which is modern AI, Temple to Cthulhu, which I've seen a scary amount of commenters that act like stuff like this is real unless it's this obvious. This I've seen a million times in a million different situations. And it's just a building with basement windows. I'm sorry, but if you're just finding out that basements have windows, that doesn't change the fact that millions of people know that basements have windows. I mean, this is my house that I'm fixing up. Yeah, it's got a basement window. That doesn't mean that it's been through a mud flood. Which brings us to this and a million other pictures like this. It's a brick tunnel, so when was the last time you saw anybody build a tunnel above ground? Never. It's built to be buried. And before our modern plumbing techniques, they just built sewer tunnels. Every city that's been built for thousands of years has been planned out, and you have to put infrastructure in. This is what it looks like modern day. They dig a trench and drop some pipes in, but used to, they dig a trench and build a brick tunnel. You know, people like you and me, we build houses. It takes corporations to build cities, you know. This one, though, is different. There's kind of a lot going on here. I can't tell if these arches are part of a wall or if that was an old bridge. But here you got all kinds of stuff that's buried. And I'd say this almost definitely is Mudflood. I see a lot of pictures like this where they're digging out a city street. Every city has infrastructure, and then down below it's mining. And these have absolutely nothing to do with each other. This is just connecting dots that don't exist. A lot of these situations, once again, people don't build tunnels to be above ground. It's meant to be buried. And anytime you have a drainage ditch and you want to put a road through there, you have to put a culvert underneath of it. Even if it's just your driveway, the county will require you to put a culvert in. But overall, I see a lot of false positives claiming mud flood that is just because they don't know what they're looking at, and random photos that really don't tell you anything. You can write down that this is a global liquefaction event, but I just damn near guarantee you that this is a flooded river. You can look up the 1964 Alaska earthquake, which was an actual liquefaction event. And when buildings subside really quickly, then they don't all go down level. They're all tilted in different directions. Liquefaction events are highly overplayed on YouTube. It's because that's what people want to hear. It's not because it's true, and it gets a lot of clicks. And I can show you all kinds of stuff from the ancient world that has been buried something like this, which I don't think this one was liquefaction because, like I said earlier about the columns, but everyone's saying that this happened 200 years ago, then okay, why don't we have modern buildings buried the same way we do the ancients? It's because it didn't happen. It's because people made up a narrative and looked at pictures not knowing what they're looking at and telling everybody that something happened. It's that simple. And honestly, I would say probably 90% of what I see that people are claiming mud flood on isn't. But that's not going to matter to some people because it's their new religion, and by golly, that's the way it is. But if you can find me pictures of a modern city that look like this, then we'll talk. Okay? That's all I got. Static out.